alongside the talented team at Global HQ that bring you the Farmers Weekly rural newspaper every week, where it's a collective of news and views from our latest change makers driving a conversation forward. Now, in your change maker this week, we cover a broad range of themes, from a plant-based meat alternative made from mushrooms to heat-tolerant dairy cattle, a collaborative collective of food and beverage producers from North Canterbury, and an entrepreneurial egg producer who is only 20 years old. Now, before I let you know about our guests on this episode, I really want to stress the point that to tackle this huge questions around exponential change presented to our primary industries, we do need to come together as farmers, growers, suppliers, producers, students, researchers, entrepreneurs, and of course our industry organisations within the food and fibre space. And there is an opportunity in May. It's the largest cross-sector event of the year, known as ETIPU, E-T-I-P-U. The BOMA New Zealand Agri Summit. And now this is happening on the 11th and 12th of May in the Christchurch Town Hall. Over 2 days, 20 plus future-focused speakers, both national and international, interactive workshops, panels, Q&As, innovative exhibits, cross-sector networking, and exclusive Canterbury food and fibre experiences. If you want to be a part of the conversation or be at the biggest food and fibre event of the year. Now, it is created to be able to showcase what innovation, sustainability, collaborative and profitable futures can look like. Now, I'm going to be there and I would love to meet up with you if you are attending to discuss your ideas, your challenges, and I also to encourage you to come along, have a special for you. Early bird tickets are available now at etipu, E-T-I-P-U, .global, and viewers and listeners to Sarah's Country can unlock a further $100 off registration by using the special code Sarah. Now, tonight on Sarah's Country, we are going to talk around the innovative dairy genetics that has risen out of the tropics, that has found a heat-tolerant gene in Jersey dairy cows. Thermo Regulatory Genetics Chief Executive Derek Fairweather will explain how it is positioning farmers not only in the tropics but potentially here in New Zealand as temperature rises, and what does a slick cow look like. Then North Canterbury has its very first food and beverage brand. Enterprise North Canterbury's Food and Development Manager Alissa Wilson is going to join me in studio to explain how the rise of provenance and locally produced food and beverage is being supported here in Canterbury. And lastly on the show, a Lincoln University agribusiness and food marketing student has gone into the free-range egg business, intergenerational, from her North Otago farm that is called Bowalley Free Range. She is only 20 years old and is doing some very transformational marketing, including a live camera of the operations. Anna Craig is going to join us to close Sarah's Country's Changemaker this week. But firstly, there is a discussion that we need to eat more plants that is better for our body and for the environment. Now, what can we learn from also the food waste in our food systems, particularly in vegetables? Well, Meadow Mushrooms Chair and co-founder of Food Nation, Miranda Burdon, is going to share her mission to get more plants on plates and what a changing New Zealand may look like into the future.
This is Sarah's Country, produced in alliance with Farmers Weekly, the place New Zealand farmers turn to for a trusted source of in-depth agricultural journalism. Stay connected to the matters that matter most by subscribing to My Daily Digest at farmersweekly.co.nz.
Oh, nice boots.
Yeah, thanks. They're new.
Ben, you alright?
Oh, yeah, sorry, mate. Just meerkatting pretty hard, eh? you. I just said to myself, Ben, you work hard, you deserve new boots.
Well, you would have heard in the introduction I did earlier around the event of the year. It's known as E Tipu, the Bowman New Zealand Agri Summit, coming to Christchurch to Town Hall in the middle of May. And we have the privilege of giving you a little bit of a sneak peek in some of the inspiring speakers that will be on the stage there. And over the course of the next couple of months, every fortnight or so, we will cover one of those in the Changemakers series. You would have remembered the very inspiring young wool inventor based at New Zealand Merino, Logan Williams, and what he's doing with wool and cornstarch. So I assure you the quality of these will be outstanding. And our next speaker from the E Tipu Summit that we have here on the Changemaker, we're turning now to plant-based meats and also what eating more plants can do for our bodies and the environment. And we're welcoming now not only Meadow Mushrooms Chair, but co-founder of Food Nation and former CEO of Global Woman, Miranda Burdon. Welcome to Serious Country, Miranda. You're absolutely on a mission to get more plants on plates. Where did it originate from, your passion and desire to play this role in our food system?
Like many of these problems, you solve a problem that you're aware of. It's a personal one. So it really stemmed from a recognition that diets are changing. Globally, diets are changing, and that's been driven by an understanding of the impact our current food systems are having and a desire to play a role in how we contribute to that change. So we see the New Zealand landscape over the past few years has shifted, particularly if you're in Canterbury. You've seen a shift from from sheep, 60 million sheep, to what is now predominantly dairy landscape. And I suppose the question we have is, where's that going to go to? So from our view, we needed to find a way to support this shift domestically, and we wanted to put more plants on our own plates. So we wanted to find a way to eat more plants and to feed our families with more meals that included plants in the centre of the plate. And that was basically the germ of the idea and the challenge that we gave ourselves.
So let's start with Meadow Mushrooms, which is based here in Canterbury, in Wigram, where you're producing mushrooms in a vertical farming system. Can you explain that?
Sure, no problem. So vertical farms are very trendy at the moment. Everyone's talking about them. They're essentially a farm that is internal, not external, and you layer them up. So our farm is 6 levels high. We can grow 35 hectares of crop on a 15-hectare site. So it's very efficient. It uses minimal water and energy relative to if we were outside in a much broader land space. And it's just a very efficient way of growing. But my involvement, and it's a family business, I've grown up with the business, I suppose my involvement made me very aware of both the environment we exist in, but also the wastage that exists and the opportunity to create more products more efficiently. And one of the things that we did is we've taken the products that are what we would call the second grade, or the ones that aren't as beautiful, and we've used them as part of the base of our new Food Nation products. And we've gone out to market to see how we can create that more circular use with byproducts and a whole range of different products, and that's across both Meadow Mushrooms and now with Food Nation. Plants are the most amazing whole food nutrition, and one of the things that we've seen is, and you will have seen it all through Canterbury, is a shift in global diets and how that's affecting our landscape. So we are amazing farmers, and now we're turning our hand at producing new crops that are highly nutritious. And examples are products that we've included in our Food Nation range. So kiwi quinoa is one of our partners. Quinoa is a complete protein. It's got all 9 amino acids. Hemp is another great product that New Zealand's just really starting to ramp up on, and it's an amazing source of nutrition. Obviously mushrooms, we don't get enough selenium in our diets, and so selenium is mushrooms are the only thing that will give you selenium in the produce department, and they'll give you a third of your selenium just from one little handful. So we're looking at how plants can fill a nutritional void, or not a void, a nutritional requirement in the diet. And we have so many options. We're incredible farmers.
When it comes to creating a new product item from a mixture of vegetables, and it is effectively looking like a piece of meat or a burger patty, etc. What sort of friction has that created? I would like to know from your perspective. Or are you operating in a world of such high demand from people wanting plant-based meat alternatives that you don't experience that here in Canterbury yourself?
Oh, it's been so hard.
Okay.
So we thought it was a pretty obvious solution. We take beautiful fish ingredients that have high nutritional offerings and we put them together in a convenient, delicious offering. So it has to be delicious. We're not trying to pretend to be meat. So we are making products in formats that are the same as formats, so balls and a mince type structure and patty. So you can put them into the diet that you already have. You don't need to learn a new way to eat. But to get to deliver on that, we want to deliver not just taste, but also the textural diversity and range that plants offer. And so taste, nutrition, and convenience. Those are the three things that we had to deliver on. And it's been really hard. And I think it's a challenge for New Zealand. Global diets are changing. How we farm is changing as we understand more and more about the implications. And we've got to look at how we're actually setting up, or how the New Zealand food industry is setting up to support this change. And how we're not growing ingredients, but we're building the end product and how we're investing in it. Because that knowledge set and skill capability is something that we have found we're reasonably at the front of. We've had to work very hard with a lot of our suppliers and partners to get to a point where we had products we were really proud of. Other people are trying to make fake meat. So they're trying to make products that are largely made out of pea protein or soy or gluten and just emulate meat. We're trying to showcase the beautiful vegetables that we produce in this country and the amazing crops. We're not trying to be something else. We're trying to make it easy for you to eat plants. And that's been in products that you love, craveably good. And that's been quite challenging. So I think there's a real job for the food industry to support that shift and support a shift to value items, not just volume items.
I want to turn to your 20 years of executive experience around fast-moving consumer goods. And on Ceres Country, I like to push the barrow and ensure that we're actually being market-led in our conversations. Mm-hmm. And, this is very much market-led. You're filling a demand void for more plants within our diets that consumers are demanding. But what frustrates you the most as a primary sector when, as you explained, it's about bringing a skill set to the table as opposed to a desire to produce a particular product?
What frustrates me the most? I don't think there's nothing that frustrates me. It's more about realizing the opportunities. I think as a country, it's really exciting what we can do. So we have this great opportunity to, to translate the skills and the competence we have in the ag and hort and growing space, and recognize the opportunities in this new way of eating. And the food industry has got to support the shift in our landscape and the shift in the way that we produce. But they've got to support it in a way that demands a really long-term good value proposition and the skills and the investment in industry that will get us there. One of the realities of COVID has been that we haven't had access to technology and machinery from offshore. That just physically hasn't been, we haven't been able to get it because places have shut down. So there's certain things that we hoped that we could access that still 2 years later, I can't even do a trial on. And I saw it operating literally 2.5 years ago in Europe, and I am still wanting to do it, but we can't do it yet. So we need to turn our distance into our strength, and we can. We know these things are happening out there, and we want to just, I suppose, invest as an industry in making sure that we support growing great crops. We support the shift in the way people are eating and actually deliver to that. Don't hope it's going to go away. This is a trend that's going to stay.
And your messages when you are gracing out the stage at Etipu in May, Miranda, what are some of those key messages you want to get out there? Of course, you've just shared with us so many, but the opportunity to be a part of an event like the Bowman New Zealand Agri Summit.
Yeah, I think probably the overwhelming one is that the change in global diets is here to stay. It's going to drive a change in the New Zealand landscape. And what's it going to look like? And what's the role that New Zealand food is going to play in that? So our food industry's got a big job to do. It's really exciting. I have no doubt we can do it. But we're going to have to work hard and work together and have a clear strategy to deliver on that. And we need to think, if we look at how different industries have evolved, we want to be targeting long-term value propositions, not necessarily commodities. So how do we create high-value propositions that we can be the best in the world at? Because we're the best in the world at so many other things. In the primary space, I think there's lots of opportunity for us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Miranda Burdon from Meadow Mushrooms, and as well as Food Nation, the co-founder of Food Nation. Go and check out the website, actually. It's really interesting, the work that they're doing. And as Miranda said, they have no intention on imitating meat, however, providing solutions into a consumer-led demand. Very interesting, and of course Miranda will be a speaker at the up-and-coming Etipu Summit. After the break, how do we deal with a changing climate? Well, one company is leading the way in a world first with heat-tolerant dairy cows. Thermo Regulatory Genetics Chief Executive Derek Fairweather will be with us to explain more very shortly.
This is Sarah's Country. Catch the latest on the matters that matter most wherever you are. Listen to Sarah's Country on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple or Google Podcasts. Try asking Alexa or Siri. Play Sarah's Country on podcast.
Well, as we see a rise in temperature around the world, there has been a lot of work go on in the dairy genetics space to ensure that we have dairy cows that will be able to tolerate the heat. It's evolved into what is known as slick genetics in dairy cows, and Thermo Regulatory Genetics is one of the innovative dairy genetics companies that is focused solely on breeding heat-tolerant genetics in dairy cows. And the Chief Executive, Derek Fairweather, joins us now here on Sarah's Country. Derek, this may have taken quite some time to get to this point. How long have you been working on this particular project?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. We started around about 2008, but that was kind of after we'd done a fair amount of travel around the tropics, and you know, the cows you see in the tropics are pretty average. So we kind of saw an opportunity to try and create a better dairy cow for the tropics. So we sort of started back then, and we are today, well into the breeding program and kind of developing different sort of slick genetics for different farm systems. So all the way from kind of US Holsteins through to New Zealand Jerseys and crossbreeds and sort of everything in between.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because when I did read the press release, it was when you said about tropical dairy operations, I thought, do we want to aspire to have cattle similar to that? However, you have been able to work with the slick gene, and it will be able to be welcomed into the New Zealand dairy system that will keep up with our level of production?
Yeah, there's really, our target is really more the tropical countries, but I guess, recently in the Waikato here for the last month or two, it's felt pretty tropical. So we can put the slick gene into a normal dairy cow, and there's no real downside. Maybe a little bit the calves, because they get colder, they're born pretty slick. So you need to be a little bit more careful with the calves if they're born in the middle of winter. But other than that, there's no real downside, but certainly a lot of upside during the summer heat, where they drink a lot less because they've got less heat stress. And if you drive past our farm, you'll actually notice the non-slick animals will be bunched up under a tree like normal, during that sort of 2 or 3 o'clock heat, and the slick ones will be out grazing in the paddock. And people who know our farm will actually send us photos and say, wow, it's pretty obvious that you've got a bunch of cows that don't mind the heat as much as the rest of them.
Yeah, pretty obvious. Okay, we have to obviously, the word slick, what is it particularly relating to?
It's the length of hair, pretty much. So they've got really short hair so they can expel sweat and heat. If you've got long hair, it gets all gluggy and as you get a bit of sweat on. So having short hair lets them expel that heat more efficiently around about a degree. So, if you're running at 38 degrees, they can run at 37. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you got a child that's sick, if they're 39 degrees, they're really sick. If they're 40, they're in hospital. So a degree counts for a lot in terms of wellness and how that cow is functioning in hot and humid conditions.
And this is from Jersey bulls that you've been able to find the world's first homozygous slick genetics. That is it because Jerseys tend to be more on the heat tolerant side anyway as a breed?
Yeah. What we found is in a lot of tropical countries, they've tried the black and whites, so that they've gone down the Holstein route, and that the Holsteins are just a bit too brittle. Even a slick Holstein in the tropics, if you don't feed it properly, you're still going to have trouble. So rather than going down the Holstein, a lot of the tropical farmers have actually gone down the Jersey route because they are better in the heat. So we've been breeding even more heat tolerant Jersey. So that's kind of popped out of the breeding program in the last couple of years. So they're the first homozygous Jerseys to actually be created, which is pretty exciting.
That's fantastic. And so what sort of uptake are you having from farmers around New Zealand to bring this into their breeding program into the future?
I think New Zealand's not really our target market, so there's plenty of curiosity, but the heat stress we get here is only for a couple of months, and normally overnight they get relief. Right. So the impact of heat stress isn't that bad. So I guess people are really curious that we're doing it, but our target market is really closer to the equator, and that's where they've got heat stress 365 days a year, lots of humidity, sort of 30 plus degrees. That's really our target market. So we're kind of in our 5th year of selling semen. So we've got daughters in the second lactation, around about 5,000 daughters in the tropics. And, we've just had some of our initial clients continue to order and reorder, just now. So we're seeing repeat purchase. We've got milking daughters. So it's, the proof is reorder, but we'd like to get more data so that we actually had, like we have here in New Zealand, we've got herd testing and that, discipline around data. So we really know which bulls are performing and which ones aren't, and, how to keep driving the industry forward. So in the tropics, that kind of data is pretty hard to get a hold of. And, we'd like to be science and data driven, not just a breed driven. And that's kind of where we're pushing now is to catch up with our daughters, provide the evidence, and feed that back into our breeding program so we can create really elite genetics for the tropics.
And the data that I'd love to know eventually over time too, Derek, is the contribution that you've made for, the nutritional security of food for the people in the tropics, being able to have quality dairy cows that can produce what they need as people and make sure that because obviously a heat-tolerant cow is much better than one that's not even in with us anymore. So, congratulations on what you're doing for the food security of the tropics as well.
Yeah, there's 250 million tropical dairy cows, and it's a lot of area of the globe where there's a protein deficit, and people are poor, and if we can deliver even half a litre more milk per day, that may be enough to send their kids to school. So you can have a real help, assistance and impact at the small producer level, but then also within countries there's always some big commercial operators that supply a lot of high volume, high quality milk. We can also help them as well get even more efficient. So yeah, it's big impact, and we are targeting the regions of the world where really they can do with a bit more protein, and it has a big impact.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible. And of course, making change in so many different ways, perfect for this particular show. Thank you so much, Derek Fairweather there from Thermo Regulatory Genetics, the Chief Executive. And after the break, we're going to move to North Canterbury, where the regions launched their very first food and beverage brand to showcase local produce. 80 companies coming together to showcase what collaboration really means. Alissa Wilson will join me very shortly here in studio to discuss the very exciting new regional food and beverage brand.
This is Sarah's Country. Join the conversation. Have thoughts on an interview? Or have you got questions you want answered by a future guest? Let us know. Email sarah@sarahscountry.com.
Australia and New Zealand are home to some of the world's most innovative farming pioneers. Zematic is proud to partner with farmers who are committed to leading the way in sustainable water management. The Trailblazer Sustainable Irrigation Awards celebrate sustainable irrigation management, irrigation-driven improvements, waterway protection and environmental stewardship. See how our Trailblazers are leading the way at irrigationtrailblazer.com/winners.
And in a recent article in Farmers Weekly, Annette Scott uncovered a fantastic initiative happening in North Canterbury, a collective of food and beverage producers coming together with the support of the Huranui District Council to create what is known as Made North Canterbury. And joining me in studio is Alissa Wilson from Made North Canterbury. Thank you so much for taking the time to come in and join us around this fantastic initiative, bringing and unifying together people that are on the same mission to tell a provenance story, a story of how the food is produced, which is literally on the edge of the second biggest city in New Zealand. It's really exciting times. How did Made North Canterbury, the concept, originate?
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. So the concept actually came from a survey that was done about 2 years ago with food and beverage producers of North Canterbury. Now, I guess they got together as a group and they decided that they actually wanted to have a brand that unified them. That was basically the gist of my brief. The concept came about by doing some desk work, like desktop research around provenance brands around the world, and I stumbled upon Genuine Jersey. So it's a 20-year-old provenance brand, and it was, I think, serendipity that I connected with their CEO, and he basically told me all about provenance and how it could be applied to North Canterbury.
Fantastic. So including in the membership, we've got Wash Creek Farm with organic beef and lamb, Harris Meats, Foothills Honey. The hemp is in a big way in North Canterbury, as well as vegetable growers, cheesemakers, and, of course, wine. Yes. You have a great connection to the wine industry before you came into this role.
Yes, I do. So before this role, I was a winemaker and also the marketing manager at Greystone Wines, which is a North Canterbury winery. I think the wineries have shown us that provenance has been around for some time, and that the food producers, maybe are a little bit behind, but also how strong it is to connect with a regional story. So I kind of took their cues as well.
What makes the regional story North Canterbury? I mean, I'm from Central Otago and I'm very proud that I feel like we've really started to divine, as you said, through the wine story, but to the wider artisan producer of the romance of Central Otago and its sort of ruggedness. What is the North Canterbury story particularly, do you think?
Well, I think the North Canterbury food and beverage story is very diverse. I think you just have to take a look at what is produced in North Canterbury that kind of backs it up. We've got saffron, we've got wine, obviously, olive oil and olives, honey. We've got mushrooms as well and truffles. So we've got a real range, and I guess that diversity is part of our point of difference. And also the heritage, coming from the original farmers who set up and grew because they knew that the region was fertile. So it just made sense to keep looking into other produce.
Absolutely. And definitely an incredible microclimate where it is in North Canterbury, just the way that everything falls rain-wise and wind, etc. When it comes to the development of a brand, it takes a long time. I do definitely know that for sure. But it is around sort of people's experience with the brand. And you've got the opportunity in food and beverage to have really fun events and things like that. What's sort of on the radar?
So unfortunately we just missed out on an opportunity to showcase the brand at North Canterbury Wine and Food Festival. So we were going to have a big marquee showcasing 10 of our producers. So that was something that was going to happen, but now we're looking forward to more of a farm to plate event where we'll connect restaurants and cafes throughout Canterbury with local producers from the area.
What were some of the challenges that most food and beverage producers are telling you that they individually face, but collectively they can achieve together around, the awareness of the story and the brand and helping them collectively promote their product?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. I think the challenges lie in supply and distribution. I think there's this old thinking around some producers not having, constant supply and trying to manage, say, 10 or 20 different smaller producers is maybe a little harder than going to a food service supplier. So we're looking at ways to solve that issue and helping them have a platform to connect direct, maybe something like a one-click ordering system. But as far as the regional storytelling, just they're growers and they're not marketers, and that's why it's my responsibility and our responsibility to actually help them tell their story and put the whole region on the map.
What's it been like dealing with the Huranui District Council and the local development agency in the Waimakariri area for the support to the local producers?
So there's this initiative covers 3 district councils, so Waimakariri District, Huranui and Kaikoura, and Enterprise North Canterbury is the economic development agency that covers those districts. The support has been resounding. We've been able to connect with their networks, and obviously we need all that support to continue the momentum to get it to where we want it to go, I guess. Yeah.
What's been the biggest learnings that you've had in this journey so far with Made North Canterbury?
I'll have to think about that one. I think just challenging some of the misconceptions around food resilience and food supply and distribution. I think it's a lot easier than before. We've got people on social media spruiking their goods and letting people know what's in season, and I think now with communication being a lot easier, it's so much more accessible to get a local supplier supplying you rather than importing or getting something that has no provenance and no connection to your restaurant or cafe. Or
Absolutely. The rise of e-commerce, online marketplaces over COVID really showcased how easy it is to click and have that delivered to your door as well.
Absolutely.
And how amazing to be proud of that. Whilst, I mean, I love entertaining and love having friends over for dinner, and to be able to share the story of the food as you were doing, that's from this farm and this is from my friend down the road, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, definitely.
As opposed to here's some taka.
Yeah,
dig in.
it's like this faceless food, whereas when you have a connection with these producers, I mean, I just think of a farmer's market as a beautiful example of, you go, you meet the maker or the grower, and you have a connection with them, and that food is richer for it. Like you say, you take it and you share it with your friends and family, and you can share their story, which I think is so much more special than going down to the supermarket or something.
And how have the supermarkets been in the area around supporting that storytelling? Because they have an active role to play.
They absolutely do, and fortunate for us, our local supermarkets have been supremely supportive. So Rangiora New World in particular have stepped up and let us really showcase and profile our local producers and local products in store. And we've actually got a promotion happening in April where we will have all the signage and a bit of a food and beverage trail in store with a map.
Oh,
and
really?
tastings.
How cool.
Yeah, really exciting. And it's only made available, obviously, through the support of Robin and his team.
Fantastic. An absolute shout out. Thank you so much, because the franchisees at New Worlds are local, owned and operated, and they are so passionate about the area. I mean, our one here in Lincoln is exactly the same as well. So, supermarkets aren't all the evil either at the same time. They're so supportive of local
They're a
producers.
critical part of our food system.
Yeah.
But I think we all need to look at, ways of making it better.
Yes.
And thankfully, there are a lot of New World and other supermarket owners who are proactive in connecting with their local growers and makers.
Thank you so much, Alissa Wilson, coming in here from Made North Canterbury. I really appreciate your time, and the story is in Farmers Weekly online, farmersweekly.co.nz, and forming part of this week's Changemaker. Now, coming up to close the show, we are going to actually meet a local food producer who is only 20 years old and embarked on an incredible journey in her university holidays. Anna Craig is from a family farm in Herbert in North Otago and launching her own egg brand. She has a lot of incredible learnings as she's cracking into a free range egg business venture, and she's going to join me in studio very shortly here on Sarah's Country.
This is Sarah's Country, produced in alliance with Farmers Weekly, the place New Zealand farmers turn to for a trusted source of in-depth agricultural journalism. Stay connected to the matters that matter most by subscribing to My Daily Digest at farmersweekly.co.nz.
Well, to close the Sarah's Country Changemaker is a young 20-year-old who is making huge change to her family chicken farm operation in North Canterbury near Herbert. She was torn around how she was going to spend her summer holidays. So naturally, what does an entrepreneur do? She set up a new free-range egg brand. Go figure. The youth of today are absolutely inspiring, and Anna Craig joins me now in studio. Anna, thank you so much. I mean, you're not too far away, down at Lincoln University, studying agribusiness and food marketing. How are you enjoying it?
I'm really enjoying it. So I'm in my third year now, and it's just been such a diverse course to take, a lot of flexibility with it as well, which is why I've really enjoyed it, and met some great people along the way as well.
Hey, so when you're talking about the family business, your great-grandparents, Ivan and Joyce, had a flock of 200 hens north of Mahino since 1958. So in terms of being in the egg business, it's been intergenerational.
It has been, and that's something that I really value is the family side of it. I think the family owned and operated is something that goes hand in hand with, that Kiwi made as well. And the fact it's been through so many generations, and I love hearing about the history of it, from what my grandparents used to do to my parents to what we're doing now, how it evolves and how it gets better every day.
And the thing is that there's 30,000 free-range shaver hens.
Yes.
From 200.
Yes.
It's a huge operation. Can you tell us more about, how you go about the management of feeding and, of course, naturally everyone's trying to phase out caged eggs and the process behind that, because it's a fascinating thing that we don't discuss enough.
No, so in 2015 we developed our first modern free-range shed. So that's on a set of skids, and that means we can move it backwards and forwards between each flock. And a key part of that is resting the land that it sits on. So chickens are quite notorious for being a bit harsh on the environment. So by being able to move those sheds, we can manage that a lot better. And then for their feed, we're one of few that do it, is grow all of our own feed for them, and we have a mill on site. So right now we're in the middle of harvest, so that's barley and wheat, and that will set us up for the following year worth of feed. And then we've got a team of staff that make special mixes from ranging for they're called the rearing shed, so that's where our younger chickens are, right through to our laying birds. So they all get a specific diet.
Yeah, wow, incredible. Because obviously with the fluctuation of grain markets, it's nice to be sustainable over that supply of feed.
Yeah.
And also too for the food story. So your family, before you went into this venture of Bowalley free-range eggs, used to contract to foodstuffs. What's it like being in sort of more contractual as opposed to being a family that is a branded product?
Well, I think the benefit of Bowalley is being able to share our story and all of these unique attributes that we've sort of taken for granted in a way, but then when you put it all together, I realised what a story it was to tell, from the sustainability to the live camera to even just our family being out there working together. I thought that's quite unique, and then that's really how Bowalley was born. It's been an idea of mine for a while now, and my dad as well, and we hadn't really found the right time to execute it. And because the market is changing so much, I sat down with my parents and they said, you can do whatever you want, whether you come back here for the summer or go anywhere else, it's up to you. And I made the decision, it's now or never. If we were going to do Bowalley, we were going to do it this summer. And so I started working on it towards the end of last year when I was just finishing up my second year of studies, and then spent the whole summer developing it and really pushing things through for my February 1st launch date.
And I must say, without prompting at all, my partner brought home some Bowalley eggs. And I was like, I know, I'm going to be speaking to this young lady, so I can't wait. And they are fantastic, by the way.
Oh, good to hear.
But what is involved in the process of getting your own brand into the supermarket all the way through to packing, distribution, the whole lot?
So we actually... we go through foodstuffs, and they have a ranging schedule. So a couple of times a year, the egg category comes up for when you can present new products. And so it was either going to be, I think it was October last year or possibly April of this year, which I knew would be far too late for us. So I picked the October one, which was, I think I had a week or two to put the presentation together. It was quite a push. And then Foodstuffs took that, reviewed it. They gave us a set ranging. And then from there it was like, right, we really need to develop this. So the packaging was a big part of it. I wanted something unique that would stand out on shelf. And So originally, well, it was a combination of my dad and I, the design for the packaging, and a great team, a local team in Oamaru, Brecken's Print. They helped me design the sleeve, and that was really good working with other local businesses as well, because they were just as passionate about it. So once the packaging was done, I could do everything else. So that was the logo, the website, all that side of things, which is a backwards way to do it sometimes, is to do the packaging first, then everything else. But because of the time constraints, it was just, I had to have so many projects on the go at once. And then, so just like any other day, the staff go up, they check the hens, they gather all the eggs, so they get laid in nest boxes which roll onto a belt, and the belt is pulled down one end of the shed where the staff put it into trays. The trays are then transported down to our grading site, and they're graded through a MOBA grader, which then we receive the eggs and put them into the Bowalley packaging. And then Foodstuffs has their own distribution centre, so they come and pick it up with their truck network, and then it goes up to a warehouse up here, Eggs New Zealand, and then it goes round to Foodstuffs, and then they distribute it around all their stores. So it's quite a lot of parts moving around.
That is the most transparent supply chain explanation that I've ever had on Serious Country, to be honest. And when you were talking there before around a live camera.
Yes.
This is a really brave and transparent thing to do for any producer. How did, firstly, the concept sit well with your parents and your grandparents around your style of marketing?
Well, I think my grandparents were a bit worried about having a live camera, but I'm pretty sure it was Dad who was the one who suggested it for a start. He's always been very forward-looking, wanting, I haven't been constrained in any way with any idea, and he actually came up with the idea. And then it was about actioning it. So there were so many different projects on how we're going to do this, what type of cameras. We got 2 different teams in to help us with it, because I'm terrible with technology, and when it was all emailed through to me, it was like another language. So we got in another local team in Oamaru and one down in Dunedin, and then originally, from what it was, which was a movable camera that was put in and out of the range every day, to now it's a stationary camera, and we've got 3 of them set up, so you can always see the chickens, whether it's outside or in the scratch area if it's raining, or inside the shed, and that way we can easily flick between all 3 of them for consumers to be able to see the hens.
Now, there is a thing called a pecking order, and it's not just in humans, it's in chickens.
Yes, and definitely.
You can pick out those bully chickens.
You can definitely see the ones that rule the roost, so to say. They are, yes. It's been interesting watching their behaviour through the camera. You just know that it's all set up, and at night time there's a sequence and all that goes ahead. But actually being able to see it on the camera and what their behaviour is, especially I'll be watching the camera and doing some tests, and then 1 second all the chickens have run inside. I'm like, what's happened? Well, the feeders have gone off, so it's lunchtime and they're all scrambling to get inside. So it's been really good for us as well to be able to see what's going up there, 24/7 basically.
And using technology such as a QR code on the cartons as well for the likes of us to scan it and see these things that are going on. I am so inspired, as I'm sure our viewers and listeners will be just as much at your youth. I interviewed a young Lincoln University graduate who went back to his sheep farm in the North Island and created a sheep milk business. And it's just incredible the support that is there for families to embrace change and have the next generation coming through. What are you finding in your generation that you need more support with to nurture ideas and nurture careers, so we don't lose great people that are coming through our university systems?
I think it's really taking a chance on people and giving responsibility. I think a lot of people, there's set ways to do things. You're really restricted in what you can do, therefore no risks are taken. And so I'm really fortunate that my family, if you want to do something, you can do it. There's no restriction. In fact, we're actually pushed to do everything on the farm. So this wasn't just handed to me. I've spent years and years. I've worked my way up from some of the worst jobs you can do, really getting stuck in there. And it's, you know, aside from the family, it is a business at the end of the day. And my ideas I had to present to mum and dad and my nana and granddad and say, this is what I think will work well, this is why. And they gave me complete freedom to go ahead with that, which I don't think I'd find anywhere else. And I think we need a lot more of that, is actually giving people responsibility to do things.
Fantastic. What an incredible way to end. Thank you so much for coming in. Anna Craig, Lincoln University's agribusiness and food marketing student, as well as co-founder of Bowalley Free Range from her North Otago. Sorry, my apologies. And we've had Canterbury and North Otago property down south. And congratulations on all your success. And I look forward to continuing to consume the wonderful eggs that your family have produced. Thank you so much. And that is all we've got time for on Sarah's Country's Changemaker. We'll be back on Monday from 7 o'clock live on Sarah's Country, as well as make sure you get in touch with me with any ideas for stories or guests, or of course, if you just want to have your mind, flick me an email, sarah@sarahscountry.com. In the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your week. If you are going to Wanaka Show, I look forward to bumping into you and potentially having a beer. So if you're anywhere around the country, enjoy the rest of your week and weekend and take care of yourself and your family. Ka kite anō.